We're going to rank every single one of these movies. We are also then going to put these movies in order of, in my opinion, best to worst Mission Impossible. The rankings, the way these rankings will be working. S tier means fantastic movie. Would change nothing about it or a very, very minuscule thing or two about it. Great movie is S tier. Better than 99% of other action movies, right? A tier is kind of like your great movie, right? It's not perfect or it's not incredible. It's not like the S tier, but A tier is a solid, very good, very enjoyable time still better than I would say 90% of other action movies. B tier, these are your mid movies, whether they rely on the same gimmick way too much, or they're confusing, or they're a little forgettable, then that is your B tier. C tier is like, it's not awful, but it's not very good either. It's kind of quite forgettable. More forgettable than a mid movie. I basically just have C tier. I don't think anything's going to go into C tier. I'm just going to be perfectly honest. I think C tier is not going to have anything in it at the end of this video. And then F tier. F tier is obviously, terrible movie, bad, didn't enjoy it, things like that. And I think we should start off with that F tier because there's only one movie from this franchise that I believe at least belongs in the F tier. There's only one movie in this franchise that I can legitimately say I don't have any interest in ever seeing that again. And that is Mission Impossible 2. Mission Impossible 2. I don't know if this is true or not, but there's a rumor that Mission Impossible 2 allegedly had a 30 or 35 page script. And for reference now, 35 pages equates to 35 to 40 minutes of runtime. So, this movie should have only been a 35 or 45 minute movie. So how did they reconcile that? They rely on the same shtick over and over and over again. They drag out the runtime, and they stinking slow-mo everything. There's so much slow motion in this movie that it is actually absurd. I do not like Mission Impossible 2. Mission Impossible 2 is like a solid 2-star, probably less movie in terms of enjoyment. I didn't like Mission Impossible 2 at all. Now that I've got that out of the way, we're going to go in order of these movies coming out because I felt like I needed to go ahead and just slap Mission Impossible 2 in the F tier. And yes, Mission Impossible 2 is going at the bottom of the list. It gets a lot of hate, and it is still kind of cool. It is kind of cool in some aspects. There's a very good motorcycle chase in it. But that's the only good scene in the entire movie. So, Mission Impossible 2 goes there. The first Mission Impossible. Let me tell you my gut feeling about this movie. My gut feeling is that it's a high B. I'm going to set it there for right now. Let me explain. Mission Impossible undoubtedly does have like a top 5 scene in the franchise. And obviously, it's the CIA Black Vault break-in. Very great scene. Very, very great scene. Also has a very, very solid setup at the start of the movie. It's very compelling. It draws you in very quickly. But Mission Impossible, more than, I would argue, a lot of the other movies, and by a lot, I mean all of the other movies, relies on the same gimmick over and over and over again. Now, granted, it's the first movie in the franchise, so they can get away with that a little more, which is why I don't put it, at like C or something. But Mission Impossible, I think I'm going to lock in at a B tier film. And the reason I say that is because Mission Impossible was pretty long. It was longer than I think it needed to be. And it was less of an action movie, more of a spy movie. Obviously, that's personal preference. Some people are going to prefer a more spy movie as opposed to an action movie. I prefer an action movie over a spy movie, so that is also part of the reason. But another part of the reason is that it felt like there were, which obviously you have to suspend belief for a movie, right? Especially a movie like this. You just can't, you have to suspend belief to enjoy these movies. Despite suspending belief, the bad guy in this movie seems really dumb. And that feels kind of mean to say, but the bad guy in this movie, more than any others, feels especially stupid and not smart and very, very basic. So I think that justifies Mission Impossible being a B-tier film. Mission Impossible 3. This is a movie that I appreciated the stakes of, because this wasn't necessarily, it was, the world's gonna end, yada yada yada, typical Mission Impossible. It was pretty catastrophic, the scale at which the villain could have done damage. But the reason why Ethan was doing what he was doing in Mission Impossible 3, like in the rest of the movies, in almost the rest of the movies, we'll get to that in a bit, in almost the rest of the movies, Ethan is like, oh, you gotta save the world. In this movie, it's, oh, you gotta save your wife. Oh, and also the world is at risk. Like, it becomes, his focus shifts in this movie for the first time in the franchise to something other than save the world. And I find that very refreshing. I think the villain in this movie, very, very good. Philip Seymour Hoffman, yes. He is great in this movie. He is really, really, really good. Very good villain, very memorable villain. With that being said, despite the villain being very memorable, despite Tom Cruise being very scary in this movie, and despite this being the first movie where we see much Tom Cruise running, we love it when that man runs, I don't think I can give this higher than the high of B tier. Because, unlike the rest of these movies, I cannot really remember the plot of Mission Impossible 3. I would like to clarify. Saw this movie a year ago. Right at a year, right? I remember plots of movies. Like, if they are at all unique, I remember the plot of the movie. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't really remember the plot of Mission Impossible 3. A high B tier. Is everybody feeling fine with that? Nobody wants to fist fight me over that? Because I know Mission Impossible 3 is generally regarded, at least in the circles I'm in, it's generally regarded as, like, top 3. So me putting it in B tier is, like, sacrilegious. I think, and this is a really, really weird, because this almost never happens, I think that Mission Impossible got better with time. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think it just gets better and better and better with every installment, with the exception of the next installment, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, which gets an S tier. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol is a perfect Mission Impossible movie, in my opinion. You have characters that you care about. You develop most of them. You give most of them a reason for being there. You have great action. You have some great spy scenes. You have some great tense scenes. You have an amazing stunt with Tom Cruise climbing the Burj Khalifa. You have an amazing stunt of the ensuing car chase that happens after said Burj Khalifa deal. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol is the perfect template. And also, something about Brad Bird's filmography is so incredibly impressive, because yes, the man has been making movies for over 20 years. Ghost Protocol is an S tier film. Rogue Nation. So, Rogue Nation, yet again, quite like Mission Impossible 3, has a very, very good, very, very memorable villain with Solomon Lane. With that being said, Rogue Nation also has some fantastic fight scenes, fantastic chase scenes. But I think it's an A tier movie. I think it's top of A tier, probably. Not only was there quite a lot going on in Rogue Nation, but it felt, and this is going to be so hypocritical, it felt very, very things line up perfectly in place to move the plot forward, or things get really, really convenient to move the plot forward. And that probably seems a little mean, but Rogue Nation is kind of sort of in the same vein as Mission Impossible 3, where I don't fully remember the plot. And maybe Rogue Nation should go top of B tier. I'm honestly not sure because I saw Rogue Nation a month ago. And like, I can tell you that, yeah, they have the whole bit in the reactor, and then Ilsa, betrays them to take the list. It's Christopher McQuarrie's first Mission Impossible movie, and I think he absolutely did a banger job for the first time directing a Mission Impossible movie. But I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I think that this is gonna be bottom of A tier. If I could move it further down, I would. But the fact that I saw it a month ago and I'm kind of struggling to remember major plot points of it is kind of indicative of that. Like, I could pretty much recite you the exact plot and the exact story beats of Ghost Protocol, whereas I can't really, despite, it being like 3 or 4 months ago that I saw Ghost Protocol, whereas Rogue Nation I saw last month and I can't really tell you that much about it. So, I don't know. Rogue Nation, we're going to leave it in A for now, but by the end of the tier list, it may move down to B, okay? I think that's fair. Fallout is the Mission Impossible formula perfected. It has some mystery with regards to the villain. You don't fully know who the villain is. It has fantastic action. It has, I think, the only F word of the whole franchise. I don't know why I remember that, but it kind of stood out. It has one of the best chase scenes in the whole franchise. It's just very, very good. It's very good overall. I'm really struggling because it goes either top of A, bottom of S. And let me explain to you why I'm going to do about what I'm going to do. I'm just kidding. I did not see Fallout until like 2 weeks ago. And I saw Fallout because before I saw The Final Reckoning, I wanted to say, yeah, I've seen every single Mission Impossible movie. Fallout had great character growth. Fallout had some really, really great moments. And it was a really, really fun time. I'm going to give it top of A. It's going to kind of be like Rogue Nation. Rogue Nation may move to top of B tier. Fallout may move to bottom of S tier. I'm not fully sure yet. Okay? Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. It gets an S tier for me. I get... What else am I supposed to do? I think it takes the formula in Mission Impossible Fallout, and it's like, you know what would be interesting? It would be kind of interesting if we didn't really conclude the story at the end of this movie. And I like the fact that they marketed the movie as Dead Reckoning Part 1. To very, very clearly indicate to people, oh yeah, this is part 1 of a story. We're not going to get a full story in this movie. Likewise, I am extremely thankful that they did not, oh my goodness, I forgot how to English, that they did not decide to make a 3.5 hour long Mission Impossible, call it The Final Reckoning, and it's just Dead Reckoning and The Final Reckoning put together. I'm glad that they decided to go with the 2-part story approach. I think Dead Reckoning has the second best tension of any Mission Impossible movie ever. I think it has a good villain, but not a fantastic villain. And I think that it just, in general, embodies everything the franchise stands for. Practical stunts, cool action scenes, really, really cool spy scenes. I think Ghost Protocol does not have as good action scenes and as good set pieces as Dead Reckoning. Ghost Protocol's story is what gets it to the S tier. And that is why Dead Reckoning loses a little bit of steam from me. Because admittedly, in Dead Reckoning, there's a lot happening. It gets a little convoluted at one point. And a lot of people didn't like the dialogue of that movie. I was not one of those people. I thought the dialogue was very good. I thought the dialogue was very crisp and very, witty and mannered. And also, they relied on pickpocketing a little too much in Dead Reckoning. It almost became a parlor trick by the end of the movie. Because it was like, okay, how many times are we going to pickpocket something in this movie? And then the funny thing is, in The Final Reckoning, they didn't do any pickpocketing. Or they did very little pickpocketing. They pickpocketed something once to make a point. But Dead Reckoning, I do believe, goes in S tier. I think it is a perfect example of just the Mission Impossible formula, but broken up into a part 1. And I think the stakes are higher than Fallout, because while in Fallout, there are stakes in Fallout, but it's not like the world is going to end stakes. It's like, oh, the world is gonna end. Maybe if the bad guy can get what he's looking for. The only main complaint, I have two complaints about Dead Reckoning. The first complaint is that the movie certainly takes its time getting to, or I'm sorry, not that the movie takes its time getting to things, because that's like building up. That's a good thing. It is a bit convoluted, and the villain in Dead Reckoning felt a bit basic. He was not super memorable. He was a little bit mustache twirly of a villain. Whereas, like, in Fallout, the villain was great. Very serious villain. In Mission Impossible 3, the villain was great. Very serious villain. In Ghost Protocol, the villain was great. Very serious villain. Whereas in Dead Reckoning, he was a little bit more, here's my evil plan, and you're... Which he was even more in the Final Reckoning. Which brings me to the Final Reckoning. I think that it can sit in S tier there. Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. I think this is, like, if you look at the whole franchise, it's definitely the most serious of the franchise. It has the most to say of the whole franchise. It's the longest of the whole franchise. And you really feel that runtime if you don't stand up or you don't stretch at all during the movie. So we went to see this in IMAX literally yesterday, and this is why I said recency bias is probably going to play into this, because I realistically think if I saw Fallout when it came out, I think I would have thought that this is much higher. I would probably think Fallout is S tier, but because I didn't, I think it's an A tier film. The Final Reckoning, right now, I'm just going to be perfectly honest, I'm feeling an S tier. I'm feeling bottom of S tier for this movie, but I'm going to give it top of A tier instead. And you've heard literally all of the arguments. You've heard all of them, right? The first 45 minutes are way bloated and are only flashbacks, but necessary, because if you haven't seen every Mission Impossible movie, you'd be completely lost. Also, the first 45 minutes did feel very, like, when we saw it originally, when we saw it in my local theater, which is just, standard definition projectors, it didn't seem quite as nauseating of a first 45 minutes. It was straight up like sensory overload, the first 45 minutes of this movie in IMAX. But then again, I've also never seen anything in IMAX before this, so, because we don't live near an IMAX theater, so obviously, I wasn't necessarily prepared for how much of a headache the first 45 minutes was going to be. I think it is held back by the villain. He's especially mustache twirly in this movie. But I did still enjoy it, admittedly. I thought it was quite good. I thought it was a good fun time. And it has 2 of the 5 best action scenes in the entire franchise. So, not action scenes, 2 of the best stunt scenes in the entire franchise. So, go watch it. You should go watch it. That concludes the tier list. I feel good about this tier list. And again, it honestly depends on the day. Because some days, I would bump Final Reckoning up to an S. Some days I might bump Fallout up to an S. Some days I might bump Rogue Nation down to a B. But I think this is a good list. I think this is good. I think this is indicative of the franchise as a whole. And, and 3 might bump up to an A tier, I like this tier list, and I think we can move on now to the list on Letterboxd. Mission Impossible 2, obviously, goes at the bottom. Oh, and the reason this here is 5 stars is I was rating my experience, not the actual movie itself, and the experience was 5 stars. We got to see it in IMAX. It was awesome. It was really, really nice. I gave it 5 stars just to, I assure you next time I watch this, it'll be 3.5 or 4 star, probably 4 star. And we're not literally going to directly rate things by the number, because, obviously I think Ghost Protocol is the best Mission Impossible movie. I think it's number 1, but I only gave it 4 stars for some reason a month ago. I don't fully know why. Yeah, let me take a sec to organize these. So, Mission Impossible 2, Mission Impossible this. Do I think that 3 or Rogue Nation were better? Man, I feel kind of bad. Because it's been long enough ago that I've seen 3 that I'm like, well, I don't feel like I can accurately judge 3. The reason why these don't have star ratings is because I didn't quite have Letterboxd. We watched all 3 of those, last March. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. See, I just remember more of the plot of Rogue Nation and think the plot was more solid than in 3. I think that's where I'm gonna go. Fallout beneath both of the reckonings. Ghost Protocol obviously belongs at the top. This is where recency bias screws things up, because recency bias, I feel like in 6 months, looking back at this, I'm going to be like, wow, I had the Final Reckoning high. The Final Reckoning is going to be like here or here. But I think that's the list. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I think that's it right there. Number 1, Ghost Protocol. Number 2, Dead Reckoning. Number 3, The Final Reckoning. Fallout at 4. Rogue Nation at 5. 3 at number 6. The Original at number 7, and Mission Impossible 2 at number 8. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the list. I think. Whoops, I just doxed my Letterboxd lists. I doxed like 3 videos. Coming out soon. Whoopsie daisy. I think that's the list. I think that's a good representation. I think that's a good tier list. I think that's a good list. I expected that to take longer. You better believe when I do the Marvel list, because I'll let you know a little industry secret, okay? I have a stream planned where I rank every single Marvel movie, but not by the movie overall. I rank the movie by story. Let me know if I was horrifically wrong, and if I need to addend my list or drive my car off the nearest cliff. You can stinking give me your lists in the comment section down below. You can comment on my list on Letterboxd and tag your lists if you want to do this yourself. You can tag me on social media with your tier lists if you want to. Let me know your thoughts on the different movies. My name is Timothy, here with 1 Minute Movie, aka Movie Boy. And I'll see you guys next stream. Probably later this week. If I had to guess. No, I didn't mean to move that.